What is up, everyone? Happy Friday. Today is day 31. Day 31. We passed a month on this channel. But anyway, yeah, it's Friday. For those that have the weekend off, enjoy your weekend. I work weekends, unfortunately. So, just another day for me. But anyway, so today, we'll talk about. Man, my chair is very squeaky. Might have to get a new chair here soon. But mental toughness. Mental toughness. How strong are you mentally when the storms come? When you face the trials? Like I said, the battle's up here. Can't be strong physically unless you're strong mentally. That's where it starts. Which leads me to the quote of the day. Quote of the day. Starting over humbles a man. Rebuilding strengthens him. Rebuilding strengthens him. When life knocks you down, stand back up with higher standards. Return discipline. Return stronger. That is true. Return disciplined. Return stronger. Yeah, the trials, we all face them. It's how you come out determines who you are. Determines what you're made of. Do you crumble in the face of fear? Or you stand back up and persevere? Yeah, that rhymed. Not intentionally. But yeah, so you come back stronger, or you let it cripple you. Got to have a strong mindset. Like I said, the trials are there to teach us. So we grow, strengthen our mind. Yeah, so like I said, we all go through storms. There's that one quote. I think it's like Sylvester Stallone, and he's like, we all get knocked down. I forget how it goes, but it's what you do, after life knocks you down. And this is James Bible. James chapter 1, verse 2 through 4. Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And let endurance have its perfect result, so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. Like I said, we all go through the trials. And through the trials, a new mindset is forged through the trials. Forged through the fire. Which leads me to a story. I'll tell you a little story. So, back in 2019, I was married at the time. And I was a stay-at-home dad. And I did the homeschooling while my wife worked. And I wasn't in the best shape of my life during that time. Smoking a lot of weed and a little lazy. I don't think the real trials, they weren't there yet, but we're getting there. So my wife would work, and she'd get home late. One night, was about 2 in the morning, and I wake up. Wife's not home yet. So I panic. So I texted her and I said, hey, where are you at? Are you okay? Everything all right? I'm going to call the police. You know, has there been an accident? Like I said, panic settled in. And she texts back. She said, no, I'm fine. I'll be home in the morning. I'm like, the morning? And my first thing was like, are you cheating? What's going on? And she said, yes, I'll be home in the morning. Right there, my world flipped upside down. Heart shattered. World crumbled. In my mind, life was over. A million thoughts ran through my head. Now, mind you, I was at home with our 3 children, my 3 boys. And I called my mom out of panic. And I said, Mom, this is what's happening. You got to take us in. We can't stay here. I don't want to be here. We had an apartment at the time. I was like, we can't be here. You got to take us in. And here comes that tough love I talked about in previous videos. My mom said, no. She's like, I can't. You got to deal with this. I love you, but you got to deal with this. And, I'm crying. Like I said, my world is just flipped upside down. And I was ready to throw in the towel. Ready to throw in the towel. I was like, it's over. I was like, why is this happening to me? Why, So, get through the night. Wife shows up in the morning, packs some things and leaves. Didn't see her again for a few weeks. And we had no car. And we were on our own. My youngest son was about 1.5 years. Still breastfeeding. We had no car. I don't even think I had any money. And then on top of that, eviction notice on the front door. None of the bills were getting paid. Little to my knowledge. So here we are, facing eviction. My wife is left. I have nothing. I have the boys, just me and my kids. Like I said, world's done. My life's over. So what I do, I got down on my knees and I begged God for answers. Cried out to God and I begged God for answers. During that time, I was still smoking weed. I chewed tobacco for about 20 years. I chewed Copenhagen for about 20 years. There was a moment, I've said in my previous videos, when me and my kids are sitting there, and this is probably about a weekend after she left. We're about a weekend. And I'm still smoking. Every night was just, I was crying. I was a mess. Every day I was a mess. A mess. Me and her, we were together about 10 years. And like I said, we had 3 kids and we had a family. And so a weekend, and I've said in my previous videos, me and my kids are sitting there one night and we're watching that movie Rango. And during the movie, I've said in my previous videos, feels like I repeat myself, but I'll say it again. In that movie at the end, the little lizard guy in Rango, he goes and meets the spirit of the West, and the town finds out who he was. He's a fraud. And the spirit says, Rango says, the town, they need some kind of hero. He's like, I ain't that guy. And the spirit says, Well, be the hero. Be that guy. Sometimes you got to dig deep to find what you're looking for. He said, it isn't about you. And what Rango says, he's like, no, he's like, I'm not that guy. He's like, I'm not even supposed to be here. He's like, yeah, you come a long way out here to find something you're not looking for. He's like, don't you get it? He's like, it's not about you. He's like, it's about them. As soon as I heard that, I'm looking at my kids because I was at the time I was thinking me, 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 me. Of course, my kids are involved. Like, what are we gonna do? But at the time, I wasn't putting them first. I wasn't in my right mind. So I'm sorry, I'm making this story longer than it should be. But moving on. So he's like, it's not about you. He's like, it's about them. As soon as I heard that, I broke down. I was like, all right, I need to get it together because it's just not about, her leaving me. It's about them. Get it together. Focus what you got to do. Get your priorities in line because they're counting on you. You need to be their hero. So I looked at that, I think I was smoking at the time. I looked at that bag of weed and I was like, you know what? We're done. You're done. And I threw it in the toilet, flushed it down the toilet. Looked at my tobacco. I said, we're done. Tossed it in the trash. I said, my kids need 100% of me. I need every penny I can scrounge. I was like, because I need to take care of them. I need to start, put my feelings aside for the moment. I got to get it together, and I got to do what's right. My kids need 1,000% of me. They need their dad. And they need a hero. So I threw my weed away, tossed my tobacco away, and I quit cold turkey. And that week, during those withdrawals, was rough. Them cold night sweats in your bed, waking up soaked every night, crying. I chewed tobacco for 20 years. That's why I always carry a toothpick. I always have a toothpick now. It's just a mental thing. But, and I smoked weed a lot. So the withdrawals were really strong because I smoked a lot. So that first week was rough, and I quit. And so I'm praying every day, every morning, and every night, and I'm reading these, these books and stuff to make it through that first week of withdrawals. And we got through. I got through. Ended up contacting Veterans Office. They helped me. They gave me some help, gave me some vouchers. Ended up calling Jobs and Family Services. They helped me get an apartment, and then my parents helped me get a car eventually. And then I eventually got a job, which I'm at the same job now since it's going past 6 years. Got this apartment, got on our feet, and it was so hard at the beginning. 3 kids, working, trying to do homeschool all by myself. Thank God my mom had a friend that babysat and help me out, so I was able to work. Those trials during that time, like I said, strengthened me, build my character. And I talked about in previous video, rediscovering who you are. I discovered who I was then. I discovered that I was a leader and I was a good father, and we're going to see this through the end with God backing me. Built my trust in God, strengthened my faith, sobered me up. The endurance, lacking in nothing. And after that, I think it was a couple weeks. Here's another answer to a prayer. I think this was before we got a new apartment. My youngest son, he wasn't even 2 at the time. He fell, bit his tongue, and half his tongue was hanging off. Called the ambulance. We're sitting in the hospital for about an hour. They ended up couldn't do it. They couldn't do anything. The ambulance ended up picking us up, went to the hospital. We were there for an hour. They couldn't do anything. They needed to transfer him to a specialist. Since I didn't have a license and we had 3 kids, they couldn't transfer us. They wanted us to drive up to the hospital, which was an hour away, to take him up there because a seatbelt issue in the ambulance. We couldn't all ride in the ambulance because there was no seatbelts or some type issue. They let us go that night. It was about midnight. They let us go, didn't treat my son, didn't give us medicine, didn't give us anything. And we were about an hour away from home where the hospital is. They released us. No ride, no nothing. I didn't have a car. I carried my son, my youngest son. Like I said, he was about a year and a half, on my shoulder. And we walked at midnight for an hour all the way until we got home to our apartment with my 2 other little boys walking beside me. And I carried him the whole way. Tongue still hanging halfway off. I was a broken mess. We got home. I gave him over-the-counter medicine, pain medicine. He went to sleep, and I prayed that night. I prayed and I prayed. Woke up in the morning, his tongue was back together, and he was fine. He was back to his energetic little self. God answered that prayer. This is why I depend on God. This is why I trust in God. This is why I believe in God. The things He's done for me in my life, how could I not? How could I not? This is why I'm still sober. This is why I'm still mentally tough. Because I have God on my side. When God's on your side, you fear nothing. Like I said, a new mindset is forged through the fire. And now that, all those years have passed and I sit here and back then I had nothing. Now I consider myself very wealthy. And I'm not talking about the wealth, like I have a different perspective. It's not materialism. I don't have the wealth. Some of you may think, you think of wealth, you think of, big houses and fancy cars. It's the wrong mindset. It's a wrong perspective. My definition of wealth is a happy family, a healthy family, warm beds, food in our bellies, peace in our hearts, and God on our side. That's wealth. There's no price tags on that. Like I said, we learn to trust God during the trials. It's how our mindsets are forged. Strong mindset. This is where you grow during the hard times. Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials. See, God has a different perspective. At that time I was going through that, I was like, God, why are you letting this happen to me? Why me? But through God's perspective, He was like, I'm going to allow this to prepare you for what I have in store for you. This is preparing you for your destiny. God said, if you're going to accomplish what I have set out for you, this is the trial you must go through. The pain you must endure. But through this, you will come out a new man. The storms do not arrive to hurt us. The storms arrive to heal us, to teach us. Leads me to Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together to them that love God, to them who are called according to His purpose. Like I said, you can't be prepared for what God has planned for you till you go through the fire and the trials. He said a new mindset is forged through the fire. You build mental toughness. The battlefield is up here. We're going to Romans 5, chapter 5, 3 and 4. Verse 3 and 4. We also exult in our tribulations, knowing that tribulation brings about perseverance. Perseverance. If you don't know what perseverance is, I'll read you the definition. Continued effort to do or achieve something despite the difficulties, despite the failure, despite the opposition. Through all those trials, we keep fighting and we keep going. We persevere. And perseverance, proven character. And proven character, hope. Hope. It's time to make the comeback. This is your year. It's time to come back. Forget your past. It's not your past that defines you. It's the comeback. We're going to end with that. I hope everyone has a blessed day. Happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you later. God bless.